fellow book lovers, welcome back to the Bibliovert channel. My name is Jacqueline. So it is so hard to believe that we are already over halfway through the month of November. I'm having a little bit of a difficult time wrapping my mind around that, but I thought for today's video, I would talk about the 10 books that I would like to read before the end of the year. So some of them are classic fantasy books that I haven't quite gotten my hands on. Some of them are brand new releases. Another one is actually fan fiction. So it's quite an array, but I would really love to read all of these before 2021 ends. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. And these are the books that I'm hoping to read. So the first one on the list is A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. Now this book, I'm not gonna lie, captivated my attention because of the cover. I think it's really beautiful and whimsical, and I've seen this pop up occasionally on Bookstagram and Book TikTok. But I didn't really know a whole lot about it before I purchased it. However, after reading the blurb, I am fully sucked in. So it is about a girl named Ophelia who has the ability to see into an object's past as well as travel through mirrors. And she has been betrothed to a man who's from a very cold and distant place, and she kind of has to figure out the politics and how to survive in a new place and all of it. And it sounds beautiful. All of the blurbs say that it's very whimsical, which I'm completely intrigued by. So this one, it's been sitting on my shelf for a couple of months now, and I think it would be a really fun one to read, especially A Winter's Promise. Winter's coming up. It might kind of be a fun read to pair with the season. So that one is number one. Okay, so this next one is like a semi-new release slash not, and I've actually read a significant portion of it already, but once I heard that it was going to be released in a book, I stopped so that I could go get the book. I don't have my hands on it yet, but it is Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith. This is a graphic novel that is talking about Persephone and Hades, and it's kind of a new retelling on the story. It's set in kind of more of like a modern time, and it just kind of brings to life all of those Greek gods and goddesses, and I absolutely devoured it when I was reading it on Webtoon, and when I heard that it was coming out in print, I was so excited. So I've actually gone looking for it already and have not been able to get my hands on it. But needless to say, this is one that I am so incredibly excited to get to jump back into the world and read it again. It's just, I loved it. It's so sweet, and you fall in love with Hades, and Persephone is just so precious, and it's so good. So that one is one that I think as soon as I can get my hands on it, I'm just gonna completely devour it, because I don't think I'm gonna have the self-control to not read it as soon as I get it. Okay, so this is another one that I have technically started before, but I've come to the conclusion that I did not give it a fair chance, and it is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I've read like the first chapter, and I think that I just wasn't in a dystopian mood when I started it, but several people that I know and love and trust their book tastes have told me that not only is this one of their favorite series ever, but it is also one that they think that I would really enjoy. So it's been a minute since I've read anything dystopian, but I think that this one that once I kind of get past that beginning little part again, that it could be one that's really good. So this one's on my list. I have a lot of people who are screaming at me to read it, so this is one that I would love to get to read before the end of the year. So the fanfic that I want to read by the end of the year is Isolation, and it's by Bex Chan. Now this is a Hermione and Draco fanfic, and it is set after the events of Half-Blood Prince. So Harry and Ron are off searching for Horcruxes, and Hermione has to stay at Hogwarts in order to keep everyone safe there. And Draco is having to be kept in isolation because of the events of Half-Blood Prince, and Hermione is one of the few people who knows that he's there. So It sounds so good. It's already downloaded on my Kindle, and truly I know that if I go down like a fanfic hole, I won't come out of it. So I'm having to be very selective on which ones I can read and when I can read them, because I'm a little bit worried that I won't come back up for air. So, but this is definitely one that I'm like, yes, we're gonna read it by the end of the year. It's gonna be good. We're gonna love it. It's gonna be perfect. And I absolutely cannot wait. So that one, as well as like a whole slew of other fanfics. I have so many that I've either read and loved already or are on my Kindle just waiting for me. So let me know if you think that I should do a video that's just devoted to fanfics, because I'm really interested to hear what y'all have to say about that. Okay, so this next one's a little bit of a confession. I have never read this book, nor have I even seen the movie, which I feel like is a character flaw on my part. But this next one that I would love to read is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I know that it's like a star-studded cast, and maybe if I watch it, it'll like unlock some like deeply buried memory that I have for some reason, but I truly do not think I've seen this movie. But I've heard so many wonderful things about this book. It seems so cute and very fairy tale and whimsical and light. It's also super short. It's like less than 300 pages. But it is about a boy who is so in love. He will do anything he can to catch her eye, including trying and going to catch a star. And when he goes over the walls, he finds himself in the fairy realm. So that in of itself has completely captured my attention. I know that Neil Gaiman is very beloved and very treasured, and I think it's about time that I read one of his books. So that is definitely on the list. I would love to read it. And I think it would be a sweet one to read during the holidays as well. Okay, so this next one is another one that has also been sitting on my shelf for a minute. And I don't know, I have this desire to read it. I just don't know why I haven't. But it is City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and this is set in 18th century Cairo, and it's filled with Middle Eastern mythology and jinn, and she's like this trickster thief, and she has to travel to this mythological city, and it just sounds absolutely amazing, absolutely incredible. And so I think it's going to have a lot of themes that are similar to an Ember in the Ashes series by Sawa Tahir, which is my favorite series of all time. And so I think that I'm absolutely going to adore this series. I just need to sit down and do it. So this is one that it just needs to be done. It has to be done. So I'm very, very excited about this one. I have read several of Naomi Novik's books and have absolutely fallen in love with her writing. I think she is such a crafty author, and so I have heard amazing things about Uprooted, and I want to read it so bad. It feels very Beauty and the Beast, Eastern European retelling. It is about a girl who lives in a village where every 10 years a dragon will come and take one of the girls in order to serve him for that 10-year period. And this girl is convinced that her very best friend is going to be the one that is taken. However, when he comes, that is not what actually happens. So it already sounds like it has a lot of the tropes and the themes that I just absolutely eat up and devour. And so this is one, as I was scrolling through Goodreads, I saw that a lot of my friends had read it and rated it really highly. And again, I already know that I love Naomi Novik, so I feel like it would be such an easy book to just sink into and absolutely love and completely devour it. So needless to say, I am very, very excited about this book. Book number 8 is another book that came out this year, and I have looked for it so many times, and again, I haven't been able to get my hands on it, and it's made me quite sad. But this one kind of took Bookstagram by storm for a period of time, but it is For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, and this just sounds so good. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. But it is set in a world where if there is a second daughter that is born, she's basically born to be a sacrifice to the woods. And so this girl has been born, she's been raised knowing that her life will be sacrificial. And when the time finally comes and she enters into the woods, everything that she knew about herself and her abilities and kind of what she was born for has been completely turned upside down on its head. I really think that this book is going to be really beautiful and lyrical and whimsical and has a beautiful atmospheric quality to it, and so I cannot wait to dive in. Okay, book number 9 has been one that people have been begging us to read, and I don't know why I just haven't done it yet, because it literally has everything that I love in a book. So I really don't know what I've been waiting for, but it is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. So this is definitely a YA low fantasy book. It is set in Chapel Hill, and it is about a 16-year-old girl who, when her mother dies, she's kind of sent off to this place for like gifted children to be raised. And she sees magic being used in front of her, and then she comes to realize that she has magic, and the way that her mother died was not as straightforward as she actually thought it was. And now she's going through this whole mystery of what really happened to her mom. She's sucked into this like magical secret society in Chapel Hill, and it's set on a college campus, and it just sounds really kind of perfect, like a young adult dark academia novel. And so I've heard incredible things about this book. The cover again is absolutely stunning, and this is one that I am excited to read. And the very last one is The Kingdom of Back by Mary Lou. Now this is actually going to be my first Mary Lou book to read, and for that reason alone I'm excited. This was definitely a cover buy because it's stunning. Just look at it. So this is about the sister of Mozart who absolutely loves to play music and compose music, but unfortunately because of the time period that she is in, being a woman, she will only be able to play and compose music up until she gets married. And now her little brother Mozart has started to kind of come onto the music scene, and she ends up making this magical deal that will be able to grant her the wish of her heart. This book is kind of giving me similar vibes to one of my all-time favorites from when I was younger, and it was The Book of Lost Things by John Connolly, and it's kind of all about siblings and kind of having this rivalry with them, but loving them, but kind of begrudging growing older and coming of age, and kind of having to deal with your own emotions and how you feel about other people and what you value and what's important to you. And so this was kind of giving me a similar feel to it. I have absolutely no idea if that is actually on par with one another. I'm very intrigued by this book and the concept of bringing a historical figure kind of to the forefront, but not from the perspective of that historical figure, but instead the sibling, and just kind of what that was like in that family dynamic and how you felt about your sibling rising to fame, especially if it was about something that you're also very passionate about. I think this is one that's going to be really intriguing and fascinating and beautiful, and I'm also very excited to start a book by Mary Lou. But that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to learn a little bit more about us, please feel free to check us out on Instagram at the Bibliovertpodcast. We also have a Patreon that is filled with seriously the most incredible people in the entire world that love books and love each other and just are very, very passionate. And so please feel free to join our family and community. You can check that out on Patreon. And we also have a podcast called the Bibliovertpodcast, and we have episodes that are on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Play, and we release an episode every single week. So if you love books and you want to talk about them, definitely please check that out. But I hope you have a fantastic week, happy reading, and I'll see you next time.